evening club. So you know the story about the little boy and with the bread and the fish, how he brought his little lunch to Jesus, and then Jesus multiplied all of his bread and all of his fish, and he was able to feed 5,000 people. Don't you ever wish you could do something like that? Like, don't you ever wish you were that boy? That what we give to God, that he could actually do something amazing, like that he can actually multiply. It seems so rare of a story, but I'm here today to tell you that this actually happens all the time. He who is faithful with little is faithful with much. He who is faithful with little is faithful with much. See, when I say this, this is not a commandment. It's just the way things work. If you are faithful with little, you are faithful with much. Let's take Joseph, for example. Joseph, the youngest of the 12 brothers, he had a gift of interpreting dreams, right? So someone would come by, can you interpret this dream for me? Joseph's like, okay, I will interpret this dream for you, and this is what your dream means. This happened a few times, but then when someone who was high in power came, since Joseph was faithful with this gift that he had, Joseph saved everyone from the famine that was coming. Everyone. But this couldn't happen unless Joseph was faithful with those little dreams first. See, let's take King David, as my little brother was saying earlier. King David, at first, was a shepherd, okay? He led a flock. Sheep. Not people. Sheep. But David was really, really faithful with leading his sheep. Eventually, you know what? God saw that. And eventually David took care of the nation of Israel. Everyone, and that was the golden years of Israel. Let's take Paul. Before Paul was Paul, he was Saul, right? And while he was Saul, he was faithful with his misguided convictions. He was killing Christians, but he was faithful in doing that. He saw something he really believed in, and he was really faithful in that. So you know what? I believe that God actually honored that passion, and God actually honored Saul's faithfulness, even though it's misguided, and he flipped that whole thing around, and then Paul became one of the greatest evangelists of all time. He wrote all those letters, and he has influenced the church from day one, pretty much. Let's take Billy Graham, okay? Billy Graham, as he was starting college, he was going to drop out of it, actually. It was a preaching college, but someone told him, someone who was advocating for him to stay, he said this: at best, Billy, you could amount to be a poor country Baptist preacher somewhere out in the sticks, okay? That's the best, but you should stay, okay? That's the best you can do. So you know what, Billy, he decided to stay, and you know, he preached here and there, but eventually he became one of the greatest preachers ever in the 20th century. And Mother Teresa, okay? Mother Teresa, you know what happened. She basically went out to the poorest of the poor in Calcutta, India, the poorest of the poor, and she said this in retrospect afterwards. When she first walked the streets, she saw someone dying on the street, and then she said this: if I had not picked up that first dying person on the street, I would not have picked up the thousands that were to come later. And you know what? Later she picked up over 42,000 people, nursed them from dying, the worst conditions in the worst area. And she helped them, she showed them that someone actually cared for them. See, what do we have? What has God given us? See, it's amazing to hear these stories, but what has God given us? Who is around us? What kind of people do we interact with? What talents has God given us? Well, remember that no matter what the talents that God has given us, or whatever, like, even if we're in a bad situation, what if we are in a place that we did not expect to be? Maybe we were applying to a school that we did not get into. Maybe our future, we wanted to get this particular job, but we did not get it. what's God telling you? Whatever situation you're in, it may not be grandiose, it may not be all like magnificent and amazing. Stay faithful in those things. Stay faithful in those things. You see, it is not what we do that defines who we are. It's not those like grand things that we do that defines who we are. It's actually who we are that defines what we do. Okay? It is who we are that defines what we do. So to close, I'm going to give you a story of one more person. There's this one guy in China. His name is Brother Yan. He became a Christian when he was, I believe, 16 years old. And you know what? When he became a Christian, he prayed really, really hard for a Bible. Back then, no one, it was really, really hard to find a Bible. But he prayed for the longest time for a Bible, for months. God, please give me a Bible. I really want to know what you have to say. And then out of the blue, someone gave him a Bible. And then, as soon as he got the Bible, you know what he did? He read the book of Matthew. He read it over and over, that he pretty much memorized it. And then as soon as he memorized it, you know what he did? He went out. All he knew was the book of Matthew. Here we are, we have all these resources, we are in the best countries, Anthony was saying, we have all these things, and yet we have so much, yet we do so little with it. But this guy, he had so little, yet he was able to do so much with it. So he went out to this village, he preached, a lot of people got converted, and he did this constantly. Whenever he learned something small, he did a lot with it. So stay faithful. If you have something small that you learn, stay faithful. Use it a lot. Learn a little, use it a lot. And now, today, Brother Yan is actually one of the most pivotal people in the revival of the Chinese church today. So may we be people who use a little, who learn a little, gain a lot. May we be people who identify who's around us and be able to use the best out of the situations that we have. In the name of Jesus. Okay?
Amen.